Okay. So the first reason as to why Bhutto was executed was number one, because of the murder accusations of the political opponents. Federal security force was used illegally for the murders of political opponents, which was obviously not one of the motives of FSF, but this was an illegal usage. So uh, Bhutto was proved guilty in court, and this is why he was executed. Number two, Ziaul Haq had declared martial law against Bhutto in 73. Because you see how the 73 constitution had uh, introduced a parliamentary form of government. So martial law was exactly opposite to what parliamentary form of government is. So technically, Ziaul Haq, this declaration of martial law was illegal. Ziaul Haq was not allowed to declare a martial law under a parliamentary form of government under the 73 constitution. So obviously, this was a case of treason, right? Um, Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto, it is said that this could be a reason as to why Bhutto was executed. Number one, because maybe Ziaul Haq knew that this case of treason would have led imprisonment, yeah, of Ziaul Haq. So this was a reason he tried to maybe remove Bhutto just from power to protect himself. Okay. Number two, his growing support. People were actually, some of the people, I'm not talking about the political opponents, the people supporting PNA. Generally, the public was very welcoming. They were supporting Bhutto and the policies because of certain contributions, just like the similar agreement, like the nationalization, like the education reforms, the free for all education campaign. All right. So his popularity was increasing. So Ziaul Haq had declared martial law and executed him just to counter the increasing popularity of Bhutto. Okay. Now, moving on to the 14-mark question, guys, is everything clear up till now? The 7-mark questions. Is there anything that is not clear? All right. So moving on. Now, this first question is about the policies. Constitutional reforms were the most important of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto's domestic policies between 71 to 77. Do you agree? So first of all, let's down all the reforms: constitution reforms, agricultural reforms, industrial reforms, educational reforms, foreign policy, the similar agreement. Yeah. So once you list down all the reforms, then think which one of all of these do you think is the most important, was the most important. So you make 2 points for that and makes 5 other points. All right. This is the best way to attempt this question. I think over here in the marking scheme, they've stated agricultural reforms are the most important, but you guys are open to agree with any of the reforms you think were the most important. I would suggest that you go with constitutional reforms. Why? Because 73's constitution is still being followed in Pakistan. So undoubtedly it was the most important one. Yeah. Agricultural reforms, industrial reforms, all of these were important, but they had their own failures. Constitution reforms, because that constitution is still there in the country. I think this is the greatest evidence as to why this constitution reforms were the most important. Okay. So again, go with it. Go with it if you think you can make 2 points, 2 very distinct points with proper analysis. All right. This is completely up to you. So let's read this. No, you don't have to mention any headings, Isha. Never do that. You're not supposed to mention any headings. Just write the points. All right. Okay. Points in a sense that you mention the points in proper paragraph formats. All right. Proper reasons. So the question starts from the 73's constitution, because you need to write that on level 3. You'll tell about how it was imposed by Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto. The president was declared as the head of state. Prime minister was the chief executive of the government. A parliamentary form of government was introduced with the National Assembly and a Senate. All the rights were guaranteed. All the Islamic fractions were also happy with this constitution, and it was an important step because after the 62 constitution was abolished, Pakistan did not have any constitution, and it was important for the future of politics of Pakistan to basically have a constitution. All right. Number 2, the civil service reforms. Okay, so civil service of Pakistan was very corrupt at that time. And Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto tried to restructure it by removing and altering some of the laws and regulations just to make the civil service more efficient. All right. So civil service is it's basically all the government departments, police, media, and all the security. Okay, there's this another question. Okay, so there's no strict format as to if you are to write a 14-mark response in paragraphs or not, but writing your answer in paragraphs is the most sensible thing that you can do because it gives a good outlook to your question. Think of it from an examiner's point of view. A person who will be checking thousands of papers will always find an answer written in paragraph forms more organized. You need to organize your information. So I will recommend that you go for paragraphs. Again, there is no strict ruling from the CIE as I mean if you are to write it in paragraphs or not, but it is a general suggestion that paragraphing is always a good idea. Okay. Make separate points for all the paragraphs with proper analysis at the end. Okay, third, guys, educational policy was another constitution, free for all education till grade 10th. Nationalization was actually implemented as a reason to implement this plan. Okay, so it was, I mean, Zulfiqar Bhutto was successful in increasing the literacy rate of the country. If you guys, I don't exactly remember what the literacy rates were, but if you guys maybe research a little bit on the literacy rates during this tenure, you'll see an increase, a general increase from the 1971 to 77. Okay. And the third point was the contributions in terms of health and hospitality. So Pakistan was facing a very high death rate of infants and a very low life expectancy of people in the rural areas, especially villages of the country. Medicines were too expensive for the countries. So this multinational diplomacy was there. So Zulfiqar Bhutto restricted selling of medicines under brand names. Brand names के अंदर sell करने का मतलब क्या होता है? That you basically are somehow placing your profits over the benefit of general public. Yeah, the companies, the multinational companies get a chance to form their own monopolies. So Zulfiqar Bhutto tried to end this diplomacy of the multinationals by restricting selling of medicines under brand names. So everybody was able to afford medicines on very affordable prices. All right, so medicines were made more accessible. People got an opportunity to avail better healthcare through that. This was the analysis of this point. Okay. How long average paras are required in 14 marks? So for paragraphing, I think you can you can make 8 paragraphs in a 14-mark question, 7 for 7 reasons and 1 for the evaluation at the end. Okay, that is a recommended format again. Yes, Abdur Rahman, the health reforms did have their failures as well, but because we are not analyzing a reason as a success or as a failure, you don't have to just get into that. Guys, another very important point. When you answer a question that asks you to analyze the importance of a reform, importance का क्या मतलब होता है? सिर्फ success. अगर वो चीज कि इतने ज़्यादा failures थे, तो you will never analyze the thing as important. Okay, so importance, and so just to get basically out of the confusion, I would recommend that you guys don't discuss the successes and the failures of a point while answering to a question that asks you to analyze the importance. Never get into that. Never get into the debate of successes and failures. All right, because all of the reforms, obviously, constitution के भी तो फिर बहुत ज़्यादा failures थे, yeah. जो आपको आगे जाके पता लगेंगे. In all the nationalization policies, education reforms, every reform had its failures, but because you're answering a question of importance, you don't have to get into that. You will be studying a how successful question after this. That is where you talk about the successes and the failures. The policy of nationalization proved to be a failure, but it was introduced for a good purpose. Since the time of Ayub Khan, there had been inflation in Pakistan and the prices of basic necessity had gone very high. So yeah, to bring down all the prices, to reduce the inflation, it was important for the industries to be nationalized. All right. And then the agricultural reforms. So land sizes were very important. 250 acres for irrigated land and 500 acres for unirrigated land these policies were basically implemented. So people were just allowed to own certain amounts of land. Can anybody tell me, why are these land reforms important? Why do the governments limit the size of land? I mean, why have the governments limited the size of their lands during all of these years? Also, about the time management, what I can say here is that you should first of all know the time that you need to spend on these questions. Generally 15 to 17 minutes is recommended for a 14-mark question. 2 to 3 minutes on a 7-mark question, 1 minute on a 4-mark question. This is the time that you should spend on all of these questions. And you can only, you'll only be able to complete your answers in time if you time yourself while attempting all of these questions. I give assignments every day after the class, and whenever you guys attempt those assignments, take a stopwatch, time yourself, all right, and try to get done within the specified time limit. Yes, to evenly distribute land among poor farmers. This is why the land reforms were introduced, because during that time, the landlords used to illegally possess illegal lands as well. So it was important for the government to maintain some sizes, so nobody had any illegal possession. And then during the tenure of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto, all of these modern ways of agriculture, the mechanization, introduction of technology, pesticides, tube wells for irrigation, were also introduced just to increase the yields of agriculture, because Pakistan, being an agroeconomy, needs to have a very consistent agricultural supply throughout the year. And with that, guys, we are done with this question as well. I'm sorry, the class time is a little over now, but I'm just trying to get done with this topic today. I don't know if we should go on with the last question. Success and failures. Now it's the time that you analyze all these successes and failures of all the policies. Guys, I'm going to leave this question for you all to read and understand. But if you come across any question, feel free to reach out to me on WhatsApp anytime. All right. With that, the assignment for today will be posted on the Google Classroom right now, right after the class. You'll be attempting this 14-mark question. How were the constitution reforms the most important of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto's domestic policies through 71 and 77? And you will also be attempting this question: why was Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto executed in 1979? One 7-mark question and one 14-mark question. This is the assignment. I'll be posting both of these questions on the Google Classroom right now. Please be sure to log into your classrooms to stay updated. All of the students who are again taking the class for the first time today are here for the demo. Can request access to Google Classroom by sending in their email IDs to me on WhatsApp. All right, that is where the Google Drive folder is. We have all the notes and lectures on that drive. Okay, so any questions so far before we end the class?